Erica here with Prep Scholar GMAT. Back today with a video about how to study for the GMAT when you're a non-native English speaker. Now, before we get started, I want to remind everyone that you can get one-on-one online tutoring from me, Erica, or another GMAT expert with Prep Scholar GMAT. You can head over to our website to sign up or learn more about our other customized online prep options. Links are in the description. And as always, if you like this video, we've got a lot more great GMAT content. So check out our channel and subscribe for updates on new videos and live streams. All right, so first, if English isn't your first language and you're choosing the GMAT over the GRE, that's probably the right call. The GRE tends to be much more difficult for non-native speakers, and this is due to its heavy vocab focus. So if you're thinking about switching over to the other test, be sure to take a practice test first and compare your score percentiles. Now, for most non-native English speakers, verbal is the big concern, but we'll quickly address what you need to know for quant. The main place where non-native English speakers struggle on the quant section is with word problems. This makes sense. For word problems, make sure you know which words signify which operators. So and means plus, of means multiply, less than means subtract, etc. We cover this in our word problems video, so check it out for more detail. Okay, on to verbal. Sentence correction can be particularly difficult for non-native speakers who aren't familiar with odd structures and phrasings. Now, the biggest trap that I see my ESL students fall into is spending too much time memorizing idioms and special cases. Now, this sort of study feels really productive, but it isn't very helpful. First, the GMAT is moving further and further away from idioms and other memorization-based errors. They're more interested in testing your reasoning. So idioms don't show up very frequently, and when they do, they usually aren't critical to solving the problem. Now, just as important, there are about 1 million idioms, the vast majority of which won't show up on the exam, so studying them is useless. Even if one of the idioms you memorize does show up, it'll be on one problem, where it'll help you eliminate a couple answer choices that you could have eliminated for another reason anyway. But even more than this, memorizing idioms can actually be harmful. There are often multiple versions of a single idiom. This means that if you memorize one version, you may rule out an answer choice with a different version of that same idiom that appears to you to be wrong, but is actually completely acceptable. So what is helpful for sentence correction? First, get very comfortable with basic grammar rules. Now, this includes agreement, verb tense, modifiers, parallelism, and sentence structure. While there are some special cases for each of these subjects, there really aren't a ton. A basic familiarity with how each of these work should be enough to handle the vast majority of grammar errors. Second, focus on reading for meaning. As memorization-based questions decrease in number, meaning-based questions increase. So paying attention to what you think the sentence should say versus what it actually says will help you catch these often subtle errors. A good use of time here is keeping an error log. This will help you keep track of subtleties in grammar and meaning that you notice in your practice. Now, make sure that you don't blow off problems that you don't fully understand. If you don't know why your answer is wrong and the right answer is right, pursue it. Internet forums and personal tutors are great resources for this. Now, the most important thing to remember, if you notice something that you think might be an error but you aren't sure, find something else. There are usually multiple errors in a sentence, so you're better off focusing on something that you know better. It's likely that the thing you're focused on doesn't actually matter. The test puts in a ton of distractors to confuse you and waste your time. All right, reading comprehension is another area of particular concern to my ESL students. A lot of people ask me what vocab they should learn to get through difficult and technical passages, and the answer is none. Even for native English speakers, the larger purpose of these questions is to look at structure, not meaning. So why something is written, not what's in it. Now, to pick up on structure, you do need to know your transition and connector words inside and out. So your howevers, your consequentlys, your ands, your buts, etc. But that's about it. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to run into words that you don't know on these passages. You will, and that's okay. These passages are intentionally written to be confusing, using subjects and language that aren't likely to be familiar to your average business school applicant, and that is including native English speakers. So as long as we can get the really big picture ideas and then search for specific details when asked, we can be successful regardless of topic. Now, to do this successfully, your most critical strategy is to skim and interpret as you go. I really recommend watching our video on this topic to nail down this technique. Now, another good trick. When you see a word or phrase that you don't know, treat it like a variable. When you see it crop up again, you go, hey, there's X. Okay, what's the sentence saying about X? And how does it relate to the previous sentence with X in it? We never need to know what X is. We only need to know what the stuff around it says. In fact, we might even find the meaning of X in the process. All right, to practice reading GMAT-style passages without burning through a ton of practice material, you can use academic and technical articles. So The Economist and Scientific American are classic suggestions. The New Yorker and other newspapers are likely to be less accurate on the topics seen on the GMAT, but will still provide good examples of the writing style seen on the test. Now, an important caveat here. You must practice using your absolute best strategy. So skimming, interpreting as you go, breezing past words and phrases you don't understand, etc. Now, if you're reading every word, refusing to check your understanding, and busting out a dictionary multiple times a paragraph, you aren't getting good practice for the GMAT itself. In fact, you're instilling bad habits. It's better not to practice than to practice badly, so commit to high-quality practice. Okay, finally, critical reasoning. The big pitfalls for non-native speakers on critical reasoning are very similar to those on reading comprehension. Transition and connector words are key. Words that frequently appear in questions, so infer, paradox, counterargument, etc., typically words related to argument structure, are going to be really important, and they'll also help with certain reading comprehension questions. But again, traditional vocab is a waste of time. While skimming doesn't benefit us as much here, since critical reasoning arguments are so short compared to reading comprehension passages, interpreting as you go will help a lot with comprehension. A good technique is to quickly summarize each sentence of the passage, and then also the question in your own words. This will help you prove to yourself that you know what you just read before you go on to read more. Similarly, predicting an answer before looking at the answer choices will help you avoid getting lost in the complicated language so frequently presented in those answer choices. And that's it. That's how to succeed on the GMAT as a non-native English speaker. If you have any questions on what we talked about today or suggestions for future videos, please leave us a comment below. Thanks for watching and happy GMAT studies.